Hello, my name is Nyshonda Larimore, and I am the wife of the late Leonard Wayne Larimore. On April 25th, 2018, my life changed forever. My husband passed away waiting to receive a heart and a kidney. I truly believe my husband would be alive if more people were organ donors. Now, his name will live on through me and my efforts to bring awareness to the importance of registering to become an organ donor. I know in my heart I must continue this journey and help bring awareness, especially in the African American community. Each day in our community and our nation, people waiting for life-saving transplants die because not enough of us say yes. I'm on a mission. Will you join me? Share life, share love, help me save 1,000 lives.
Good afternoon, everybody. It is the hostess with the mostest, Nyshonda Larimore, here on this fabulous and wonderful Valentine's Day. But not only is it Valentine's Day, it is National Donor Day. And it was placed on my heart to do this because a lot of us, hey Steve, a lot of us in a multicultural community kind of frowned upon or very scared of becoming organ donors. And it is my hope as an educator, I teach high school 10th graders, hey babies, to learn more about organ donations. Every day I hear someone say, my parents tell me not to become an organ donor because if I pass away, they are not going to save me. And unfortunately, it hurts my heart. And that's why I had to share the video, at the beginning, because we have got to get this message out. So now listen, this is what I need everyone to do. I need you to, first of all, follow us. All right. So you can follow us on Facebook, Transplant Talk with, Save 1,000 Lives. I'm sorry. I want you to share this broadcast. Share this broadcast, or don't be stingy, swipe and invite, do a watch party. I promise you, this is not a 5-hour telethon. It's not going to be that long, but I reached out to some friends, some that has been on the show and some that were suggested to me to be on the show. So I wanted to do my first ever virtual town hall meeting so that we can have a conversation about it. Okay. And so what I want to know is how many viewers are organ donors? Okay. Give me a green heart, a blue heart if you are an organ donor. What I also want to know is if you are a living donor, how many people in right now are living donors? Okay. So again, if everybody would swipe and invite, don't be stingy. Let's get this and let's get these numbers up so people can see their families. So today I have Mr. Willie Blackwell. I have Miss Gretchen Jackson. I have George Smith. I have Miss Thelma Warner. I have Malcolm and Jackie. I have Tony Larkins. And I guess he's one of my favorite doctors, Dr. Patel. I think every time I see him now I cry and I get so happy when I see him. But, I have to tell you, I texted him this morning and said, I just wanted you to know what I was doing. I know you're probably working because, he's a cardiologist and he does transplants. And he messaged me back and said, hey, I'm available. And again, I just began to cry because I was just like, I don't know why you love me so much and why you have people be ready. And y'all know the tears. Ain't no tears on this show, so I'm not gonna cry. But that just touched my heart all the time that if I reach out to people, that they say yes. So I'm grateful. I'm gonna control my emotions because there ain't no time, no crying on the show. Hi, D'Angelo. I would have loved for you to be on here as well. So I'm gonna bring everyone to the stage. My friend George Smith has some questions, and I believe a lot of people have questions about organ donations and they just scared, But me and George has these questions, And I'm just going to be so happy to have those questions answered. So if you got questions, drop them in the chat or drop them in the link. All right. So I want to kind of get some active participation from you all. And then I want to know, where's everybody from? Where are you from? Where are you from? And so drop that in the chat as well. So I'm going to bring on my guest now, and not in any particular order. Okay. So I have Blackwell, Willie Blackwell, who is in need. He is waiting to receive the gift of life. I also have Miss Gretchen. Y'all see, don't they look good?
Hi.
Miss Gretchen. I have the person with all of the questions. And okay, I'll be waiting for him to come on. I hope he opened his screen. Let me see. I have Miss Thelma. Hey, George, it's finally working. I can't forget this dynamic couple. All right, now I have Tony, and I got another guest. I'm trying to see where he is, and my favorite, Dr. Patel. Hello, everybody. Hello, everybody. Thank you all. Thank you. And Dr. Patel, you know I love you. I love you with all my heart. So I thank you so very much for being a part of this. And let me see if I can push this out some more so we can kind of see everybody. I make sure I don't have no sound problems. All right. So hey, George.
Hi.
Hey. Hey, so one of the things a lot of people always ask Dr. Patel, especially, and maybe you can help me with this. The biggest question, and this is like perhaps one of the myths, like they saw it on TV that donors will, let me die if I'm a registered. If I go to the hospital and I'm a registered donor, they're going to let me die. Dr. Patel,
that definitely is a big myth out there. It's definitely not the case. So it's really important to know that the decision for organ donation happens after somebody passes away, and it really is a gift that's given by the family of the organ donor. And it's a very difficult time and a difficult kind of decision to make at that time. But whether somebody's an organ donor or not, it definitely does not affect how you're treated medically. I mean, we do our best to keep everybody alive. That's why we're here. But unfortunately, a lot of things are in God's hands, and even in the best of intention, the best situation, we may not be successful. And so I agree, Nishanda, you bring it up nicely, is that is definitely a myth, and that we will do everything we can. And in fact, the other thing to kind of keep in mind is that the whole process of organ donation is actually given by the Organ Procurement Agency, not us. So it's a completely different, separate entity. We don't even bring it up. That is all done by them. And there's a reason why they did that. So if you look at the research on this, there's a belief that when things are organized by an organ procurement agency, they have a better chance at helping donor families understand the process. They can help them through the grieving process, and they can help dispel some of these myths. And so I can tell you multiple different countries around the world actually developed organ procurement agencies because of this. So if you look at Spain, for instance, prior to, I think it was 1998 or 2000, prior to then, they didn't have organ procurement agencies, and their organ donation rates were very low. And then once they started utilizing organ procurement agencies, a lot of these myths that you've nicely kind of highlighted actually were dispelled, and their numbers went up. And so, right on. I completely agree with you guys.
Well, thank you, Dr. Patel. And George has come up with a lot of questions. So I just want to make sure he gets his answers. And I want to address one question real quick, because this was one of the questions he asked, how much money are you making recruiting my organs? So I would like to address that real quick and just let you know I'm getting nothing. I am getting nothing at all. The only thing I get is a satisfaction of someone becoming an organ donor because I don't have the power. So if someone becomes a registered organ donor, you get to save a life. But Nyshonda is not getting any money. Howsoever, if you want to give to my cash out, that is that is fine. Play $1,000. Cash I even put it here. So just in case somebody else, I think I put it here. All right. So I put it here just in case, somebody asks, what are you doing? Nothing. Everything I do, every show I do, I pay for out of my own pocket. Anything that I'm using to do this, I pay for StreamYard. I pay for my videos. Like I do it all. So I don't, I don't do that. I don't make no money, not one dime. But now you can feel free, George, to cash out me anything that you like. Okay. Now, George, you have another question because I want to make sure that these questions are getting out there.
Okay. Yeah. So in coming up with these questions, they're really questions of fear. And that people that I have spoken with, a lot of questions that I have here are mainly stem from things that we see in movies or we done heard from other people, things such as like, would my organs go to the rich first? You know what I mean? So I think that's a very good question too. I know very little about this process. So I thought that was a very good question. Is the rich more privileged to receive than someone, do they skip ahead of the line or things of that nature? So that's a question.
I could answer some of that if that's okay. I think while there are healthcare disparities of people getting on the list for transplant, the decision, as to who gets the transplant has nothing to do with economic background or history from that standpoint. What they do is they actually list people based on their total level of illness and how sick they are. I can tell you where it gets to be a little tricky is so if you're talking about people on the list, there's no disparity once you're on the list. I think there is a slight disparity to get onto the list, and that's one thing as a nation we need to actually work on. I think we need to have policies nationally, which we've had that are very appropriate, which actually improve access to healthcare, and not only standard healthcare, but one thing that you look at in the United States is that transplants considered a privilege and not a right. And I really feel in my heart of hearts, and I'm biased, but I really feel that transplant should be a right. And so once we mentally get policymakers to understand that transplant is a right, that's when we can say, okay, even within all of the insurances out there, that you should be covered for transplant. You should be allowed to get a kidney transplant center, because right now you could sign up for a healthcare plan and it may not cover you for transplant. And so just to answer your question, George, once you're on the list, there are no disparities with regards to who gets the organ. It's going to be whoever's sickest, and whoever's in the hospital typically will get priority. But again, trying to get onto the list is where we have it as a society a need to improve on what we're able to do.
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Patel, because you're answering them a lot better than I can. So it's always good to have backup, because they will always believe me. But I just want to make sure that the people that are on here have an opportunity to just kind of introduce themselves. I know Miss Thelma has been on my show before. Such a wonderful spirit and positive attitude. Miss Thelma, why don't you say hello to everybody?
Hi, everybody, and happy Valentine's Day to all of you.
Happy
Valentine's Day. Miss Thelma has received, and now she is also still waiting. Okay. So Miss Thelma.
Yes.
you can share your story just a little bit, because I'm gonna have everybody share just a little bit, and why organ donation is important to you.
Well, 2017, I went into the hospital after a series of hospital events over the last, I guess, 3 or 4 years. My congestive heart failure started in 2013. I am a victim of hereditary congestive heart failure from both sides of my family. I went into the hospital May 16th in 2017, and in July 19th, 2017, I was able to get a heart transplant. And I had many complications following the heart transplant, and I had an acute kidney injury during surgery, which is one of the things that can happen to you when you have that surgery. So now I've been on dialysis since July of 2017. I came off for a year, but I ended up going back on after having tricuspid valve surgery, which they gave me a cow valve. Then I went back on dialysis. So I've been on dialysis since. And so I've been on dialysis in all about almost 4 years. So that's just part of the things that I've been through, because I've also had lung surgery as a complication, and I've had brain surgery as a result of an accident. So they call me the bionic woman. But I'm still here. I'm still alive, and I'm doing pretty good, although I am stage 5. And I am looking for a kidney. I am on the MUSC transplant list. I'm on the transplant list for Piedmont Hospital, although they told me 8 to 10 years. And I am waiting to hear back from Mayo Clinic, but I also will be evaluated at UAB in March. Yeah. And my next stop is UNC and wherever else I can get. I'm just fighting to live, but I need a donor.
Right. And so this is why I wanted to have this talk with people, to know how very important it is each year. Well, we have 110,000 people in this country waiting for the gift of life. Dr. Patel actually did an interview this morning here in Jacksonville, explaining some of the circumstances that has been happening here. With Mayo, especially during COVID. And so people, still have that fear. And Dr. Patel, the fear of that shot is also the vaccine is on a lot of African Americans. It's on their minds. It is just on their minds. And yeah, Joe, that's how you feel. That's how you feel. And I want to go real quickly to Malcolm and Jackie, Dr. Patel, because Malcolm just recently had a heart transplant as well. His story is amazing. And I want to say Tony is a heart recipient as well, right? Tony? Okay. So as you all can see, so I have so many different donors here. And just make sure, Willie Blackwell, Mr. Blackwell, you are in need of a kidney, correct?
That is correct. Yes.
And Miss Gretchen, you're also waiting for a kidney, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So I want the world to see how this greatly affects the African American community. We can no longer just ignore what is happening in our country. And 9 times out of 10, high blood pressure, diabetes, all of these are major factors of what we have here in our country and what we're facing. So I needed to address the nation in this way. And Malcolm and Jackie, they're always willing. I can't say that every person I call wasn't willing to be on here today. So I am just absolutely grateful for you to be able to come here and share your story, share your love story, especially on this day. And so my question kind of to everybody is, I got somebody else that all right, my question to you, especially because you all are heart transplant recipients, including Ms. Thelma, how did receiving a transplant help save your life? And Malcolm, I want you and your wife, because again, you know, she my shero. I love her. So explain to the people how this changed your life, Malcolm and Jackie. I hope y'all not muted. Hold on. Let me unmute. All right, go ahead.
Happy Sunday, everyone. Yes, having the heart transplant significantly changed our lives, giving Malcolm another opportunity to restore our family and be here to live. You know, without a heart, we probably wouldn't be here. He was, you know, and it's definitely been a miracle and a blessing from God. And we really have even before his heart transplant, we were big advocates when he had the LVAD on telling people to become a donor, because we would do walks and we had a restaurant and at the time in St. Louis, and we use our restaurant as a platform to have people sign up. We had donor awareness there, and God has blessed us again. We lost our restaurant and we'll have to close it because he was sick, and we had to focus on his health. And we're going to be opening up our restaurant here in Nebraska, and we're dedicating our opening week, to donor awareness. So we're having and healthy, because we really a big advocate on donor awareness, and Malcolm has took upon himself to his lifestyle of the things he didn't do when he had an LVAD, and his health and the healthy lifestyle piece that you need to maintain so you can get a heart. He's really a big advocate in that, and that's really a strong area in our community that we all have to work on, for us eating right, exercising, and different things as well. So it made a big impact on our life. Malcolm's he's here. We have a 17-year-old daughter. She's about to graduate next year, so he might have not been here to see her walk across the stage, you know. And we got grandkids and everything. What you say, Mal?
Well, what I would say is, when I was first told about I'm having heart trouble or congestive heart failure, for me, I thought it was a death sentence. I thought it was all over. I thought it was no return. So throughout that process, I did different things to cause me to get took off the transplant list. I didn't take McCoolin. I didn't do the appointments. I didn't meet the doctor. I was just doing different things to cause me to hurry up and die, basically. And I ended up leaving my wife, and I left her for about 3 years. You know, she didn't do anything wrong. I just left because they took my life insurance. They did a bunch of things to me. I lost in restaurants, and I decided it'd be better for her to go ahead with her life and start moving on with her life and get prepared. You know how women get married and move on when the husband died. A lot of times, you know, a beautiful wife like mine, you know, it's not too hard for her to find another guy at all. So I pretty much was focused on me and I actually left. We lived in St. Louis at the time. I drove to Omaha, Nebraska, and I stayed down here 3 years and got back on the transplant list and waited and waited and waited. And finally I got a heart. And when I got the heart, the day of the phone call, I was on the phone with her. She was down in Birmingham at the time. And I told her they called me for a heart, and she drove here from that day on. So from that particular, that moment, when they called and said they got a heart for me, I was on the phone with her. I clicked over and talked to them. And I walked I lived on the campus at the hospital at the time. It's a long story, but I ended up living on the hospital campus for like 3 years. And I stayed in the RV, and eventually I called her on the phone when they called me for the heart, and she came. You know, I had just asked her the day before, "Was you going to come?" She told me no, but when they called and actually said for the heart, she came. And she's been here 7 months ever since. It's almost 8 months now. We've been in Nebraska 8 months.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I'm waiting for the grand opening because I'm flying to Nebraska. So that I
Beautiful, beautiful.
so that I can eat
Everybody,
this
man. We got
wonderful
the whole hospital
barbecue.
behind us.
Huh?
I said we got the whole hospital behind us. They keep calling about opening a restaurant too as well.
Right. And I watch every day just to kind of see what you all are doing.
Yep.
And I want to go to Tony because I want you to share, how did having a transplant, greatly impact your life.
Well, thank you, Shonda, for having me on the show, and happy Valentine's Day to everyone.
Mm-hmm.
And like Malcolm, I also had an LVAD. My story was a little different. I was in perfect health, and one day I was out jogging and felt the pain in my chest. And 3 months later, I was in a hospital, and they were telling me I was going to die unless I got a heart transplant right then and there. And we all know that heart transplants aren't sitting on a shelf. It's not something that you just get instantly. 2 hours later, that doctor came back into the hospital and told me about a procedure, about an LVAD, and asked me did I want to go and get a transplant. And I said yes. I got my LVAD, and I had it for 1.5 years. After a year, I was asked to get placed on the list, and the doctor came to me and asked me if I wanted to receive a heart, would I like to get on the list to receive a heart transplant? And at the time I told him no, because I knew someone would have to die in order for me to live. And to this day, it's something that is very comfortable. And the doctor told me that people get on the list of their own will, and this their wish to save someone's life if something happens. And I agreed. And 4 months later, I got a call for a heart. And that's God is good because I practically did not have any wait time. I didn't have any complications with my LVAD, and I did everything the doctors asked me to. I believe that put me in a position to receive the transplant a little earlier. After 3 years with my heart, I did have a little complication where my heart actually stopped. They had to do CPR for 59 minutes, 15 times with a defibrillator to bring me back to life. The only reason they kept going is because my son was there at the hospital and he told them not to stop. I thank God for him, and I thank God for God because it's a miracle, 59 minutes. They told him if I did come to, I would be brain dead. I thank God I never really used my brain that much before. So I had a lot left in there. But when I did come to, they asked me my name, and I told them that I know where I was, and I told them. So once again, God is good. Unfortunately, my kidneys are shut down, went into acute failure, and they told me I was going to have to get on the list to get a kidney transplant. I remember praying to God, and I did 7 stints in the hospital of dialysis, and they came back and they told me my kidneys are working, and I do not have to go to dialysis. And at that time, they had put a port in me, and I was prepared. They were just waiting for a chair, but God. So I like to say, like when the Shonda called me, whenever she called me, my answer is always yes to organ donation. And I would express to anyone to always be an organ donor. And to those who are waiting, to remember, never give up, because we do not know what God has planned for us. Just like my miracle, there are going to be miracles for everyone who is waiting. Never give up. Remember that you're not in this battle alone. Just always remember to give back, because I believe that that's what keeps me going now, giving back and assuring other people that they will get that gift. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. Thank you. So I know a lot of people ask me, now, Shonda, why do you keep going so hard for this? Other than the legacy of my late husband, which was so very important to him to leave a legacy. That's why I keep going. I don't think anybody else should have to endure what I endured while waiting, to receive a transplant, spending almost 6 months in the hospital, going back and forth every day. That's a lot on a person and a lot on their family. So this is why I keep going, because maybe if so many more people, like all the people that went to the Super Bowl, that's, you know, the people that they can hold in that stadium, if all of them was organ donors, you know, what an impact that would make on our country. I know it's not the same in all countries. And I have, you know, I had Mark Sandy that was from, oh goodness, no, he was from New England. And so their, you know, their process is a little different. A lot of people always ask, you know, and I want to definitely go back to George's question, but a lot of people ask, do you have to have I'm an organ donor on my driver's license? Because if the doctors see that it's on my driver's license, right, Dr. Patel, if the doctors see it on my driver's license, then they're not going to try to save me. And I have stated multiple times, not one time did I, or was I asked, hey, is your husband an organ donor? Not one time going to the emergency room. They don't have time for that. They have time to try to save your life. And that's what, you know, they tried to do. There were other issues there, and that complicated the situation. But, you know, ultimately it was not them saying, well, he's going to die and, you know, we can't save him. That never happened. So I need people to kind of change their words and kind of change their mindsets. But I do want to tell you, it does not have to be on your driver's license. At least here with Donate Life Florida, you can go to the link and say, you know, hey, I want to, you know, become an organ donor, and just go to their link and do it and not have it on your driver's license. So that's also an option. I am all about making sure I educate everybody, you know, red, yellow, black, or white. You know, you don't have to have it there. Another question that George asked was, hold on. You know, can I say who my organs go to? Let me make sure. Yeah, I think that was one of your questions, right, George?
Yes, can I choose who gets my organs?
Yeah, can he choose who gets his organs? I don't think well, if you're a living donor, I would say yes.
Mm-hmm.
Right, Dr. Bell, you can help me out.
So it's really interesting. So as a living donor, yes, you can choose who gets your organs. And even as a deceased donor, you can actually choose family can actually choose who gets the organs. It's a little interesting because they had to match by blood type, by size, and everything else. But I can tell you, in the years I've been doing this, I had one unique situation. And I honestly, I never knew you could do that, to be honest. But I honestly had when I was in Dallas, I had a church member who unexpectedly passed away, who requested that one of the other church members who they knew receive the organ. And, you know, there's a lot of kind of, from a, you know, psychological standpoint, is very difficult, because that would be the one situation where you would actually know who your donor is. And it can be done. So that is something that has been done, but very, very rarely. And I've been doing this since 2008, and I've only had once where that's happened.
We actually have a member in our support group who was from Philadelphia, who unfortunately his nephew passed away, and requested that he get, the family gave him his kidney. And you're right, speaking with him, it's kind of bittersweet because he does know, but it was an unfortunate car accident. And to answer that question, it does happen.
Yeah.
You know?
And so I just want to make sure I'm going to switch positions here, because Tony and Malcolm, Malcolm wanted to know again, how long did you wait? Just so I make sure he asked that question. How long did you wait for a heart?
Well, I had the LVAD for a year. And once I got on the list, I actually waited 4 months for the
4 months.
4 months.
4 months. So that is amazing. That is amazing that he, you know, received it. But I kind of want to switch gears. So I want to keep Pastor Blackwell. And Mr. Blackwell, you're in Atlanta as well, correct? Okay, wait a minute. Let me make sure I unmute you. Right, you're in Atlanta?
Yeah, I'm in Atlanta, Georgia. I'm actually in McDonough, about 20 miles outside of Atlanta.
Okay, so I want to introduce you to Miss Thelma and Tony, because they right there in that area as well.
Is that right?
Yeah, they're
I
there.
know Willie. I see Willie on Facebook all the time.
Oh,
All
you
right.
know, that's right. I do. You know, your face do look familiar. I said, golly, the guy looks familiar. Yeah. Praise
Yeah.
God.
That's
good.
my Atlanta connection. And I want to bring on, so let me switch gears here. So I'm gonna switch y'all out for a second. And I want to bring on George, I'm gonna switch you out too. Hold on. I want to bring on Miss Gretchen. Miss Gretchen. All right.
Hello.
So I do have some other people, but they keep going in and out. So Chris Ann and Derek, if you could pop back on, I'll add you too. Because this is the face of people waiting, you know, even though Miss Thelma has received, but now she's on the other end again, waiting for kidneys. Gretchen is waiting and Willie is waiting. So I want everybody to see, you know, these wonderful people that are waiting for the gift of life. I'm pretty sure they would love to be, they would love to have a living donor. I'm pretty sure, and Miss Gretchen, Miss Jackson, go ahead and just kind of tell everybody what it would mean and a little bit of your story. How long have you been waiting to receive the gift of life?
Well, I was diagnosed in 2014 by kidney biopsy, and the kidney biopsy came back FSGS. I never been sick a day in my life. I don't have high blood pressure, diabetes, or any other underlying medical conditions. This is something that happened, and how I first noticed it is I was exercising. Me and a friend, we would exercise every day, and I began swelling in my feet and my legs, and I just knew something wasn't right. I'm like, why am I swelling? I don't think exercising would cause this much significant swelling. So I ended up going to the doctor. They did many tests, many tests. They couldn't find anything there other than there was a significant amount of protein in my urine. And at that time, he wanted me to see a nephrologist. The nephrologist did more tests. He couldn't determine why I was having swelling or why I was having the protein. So that's when they did the kidney biopsy, and the kidney biopsy came back FSGS. Well, at that time, he told me that he was going to try to treat the FSGS with blood pressure medicine to keep my blood pressure controlled so that it would not put me in renal failure quicker. And it did. It lasted for about 6 years. I was taking Valsartan and lisinopril, and it would just control my blood pressure, although I did not have blood pressure. And one day I just all of a sudden got sick. My blood pressure went high. I was vomiting from all of the toxins that had built up. And he told me that I would need a transplant or either dialysis to, live a normal life until I get the transplant. And so I've been waiting. I've been on the list for almost 2 years in May of this year.
Okay.
Kidney disease, it's not a stranger to my family. If transplanted, I will be the third person in my family to have a transplant.
Wow.
My dad, he's in renal failure. I had an aunt in renal failure and a cousin in renal failure, but all of theirs came from diabetes and high blood pressure. And I'm listed at 3 transplant hospitals. I'm listed in Atlanta at Piedmont. I'm listed at UAB in Birmingham, and I'm listed at Vanderbilt in Tennessee. And I'm supposed to go in April to get listed at the Mayo Clinic in Jacksonville to increase my chance.
Okay.
And
where are you again, Gretchen?
I currently reside in Opelika, Alabama. I'm from Tuskegee, but I currently reside in Opelika, Alabama.
Okay.
And what it would mean to me to get a transplant, it would mean a second chance at life for me. I'm only 39 years old, and I want to continue to live a healthy, normal life. I have one daughter who's 22, and I just don't know if she would be a candidate for me, being that this kidney disease run in our family. At least that's what one of the nephrologists told me.
Right.
So just staying hopeful and prayerful that I get a transplant very soon.
Yeah. Wow. Again, anybody that's watching, even if you're watching the replay of it, I need you to see the emotion and feelings that she is showing and displaying, and to know what this will have, the effect that it has on her family, especially for it to run rapid like that, which is why, medical history is also so very important.
Yes.
So very important. So when you know your medical history, that that is just everything when you know it, and then you could get ahead of it. And let me see, I was looking for George's other question was, I love George's questions, was, exactly like I said, she's never been, sick a day in her life. But George also asked this question: can I live a healthy, functional life without certain organs? Dr. Patel. I don't know.
George, you're asking some fantastic questions here. I'm glad I got some sleep last night to bring my A game today. So most of the organs that we think about are pretty much essential. We could live without one lung. God has given us 2 lungs, and we could live without 1 kidney. Obviously, we do need a heart. We do need a liver. The pancreas is one that we can deal with if obviously diabetes is a pancreatic disease, but we need, even though people have diabetes and part of the pancreas isn't working, a majority of it is. So that is one we still would need. But aside from without 1 lung and 1 kidney, we need all of our other organs.
Yeah, all together. Is that good for you, George?
Yeah. So here it is, right? My mind, from where I started to where it is now, I'm telling you what y'all ain't finna get me to do is water up on this camera. You understand? Y'all not finna get me like that.
Yeah, it's no
So
crying on the show, so it's good.
yeah. No,
Okay.
if you see water, I'm sweating. Okay.
Okay.
My perception has changed, right? Concerning being a donor, all these anxieties and the what ifs and the fear of losing a part of you, right? The thought of that on this side is nothing compared to the fear and the anxiety that you guys have on your end by not having that chance or that opportunity to continue to live a healthier, functional life without it. So, with that being said, I think this is a direct answer for you, Doctor. What are some of the things that we as donors can do to maintain not just a healthier lifestyle, but certain things that we can do to have a healthier heart, have a healthier kidneys. So in case something does come up and we are able to become donors, that we know they are getting quality organs.
Another fantastic question. I think, first of all, I wanted to kind of add one thing. before I answer that question. I think you really hit it on the head. There's a lot of anxiety for family members, for the docs, and for everybody else on the waiting side. And, you know, without trying to get teary-eyed, Nashonda lived through that.
Trying to get you through.
And one of, you know, many of you have not had a chance to meet Leonard, but what a great guy. And he waited in the hospital for quite a long time for a heart transplant. You can imagine you have a football player who's huge, trying to find a match for somebody like that is very difficult. And there are times where you know you only have days to live. And it is really hard on that side because you can see the potential and the goodness of somebody, and you can see where, like, you can imagine what Leonard's life was going to be if we got him a heart with Nashonda and newlyweds. I mean, this guy preached the gospel. He was an inspiration to everybody. Nashonda was an inspiration to everybody. And so we have all this hope. And just to have this letdown, you know, and this was God's plan, but just to have this letdown for us is very difficult to swallow. And, you know, you really have to think about it. Honestly, the decision to donate has nothing to do with the cause of a death. It's afterwards, right? And so the thing is it really is a gift. You know, God has decided a donor was going to pass away. Now we have the opportunity to help utilize some of the organs to help 8 people. Now, George, getting back to your other question, though, which is a very good question, is you have to take care of yourself. And the best way that you can be a good donor is, as Nashonda said, you need to know your history, you need to know your risk, and you need to seek even general preventative health care and really take good care of yourself. And if you come from a family that has a predilection towards developing diabetes, for instance, then early on, getting the right diet, seeing the right physicians, following up, and taking care of yourself by exercising is going to be key. If you have kidney disease, for instance, or a predilection towards kidney disease, kind of the same idea. And so the one thing you can do to make yourself a good donor is living life to the fullest, being active, following the plan. And you know, we heard a little earlier, Malcolm, you know, had mentioned he saw the light, he changed his ways, he was able to, you know, take his warfarin and take his medications and really do things. Our ask is that we do that earlier on. And it's a little hard to do that because, again, access to good healthcare is very difficult in the United States right now. We need to work at with that from a policy standpoint to make sure everybody gets healthcare that they need. And then we need to do what you all are doing fantastically, is going out into the community and educating people about the importance of taking ownership of your disease process. I think a lot of times we have patients come in and we make recommendations and they go back home and they do their best. But then the next time we see them is 8 months later and we find out, fine, we gave them medications for diabetes, but their sugar didn't change. The one thing that we need to teach everybody is that each and every person needs to take ownership of their health and ownership of their disease, and bother me and bother the docs. And if something's not moving right, call them and say, hey, this is not working. Let me know what I need to do next. Because that is where we need to move ourselves from a society standpoint, is we need to tailor our medications. We need to tailor the way we treat ourselves, and we need to make sure that we access healthcare in an aggressive manner to prevent problems. So preventative medicine is the key.
Exactly. And so I want to make sure that Mr. Blackwell, please give us a little bit, you know, of your story. And then Dr. Patel, this is also a great question, you know, because each of the people that you see here, you know, I'm African American. Will my organs work in someone that's not African American? Such a great question, and I'm going to hold it. But, you know, what I hear, the questions that I'm asked when it comes to this is just so crazy. And for me, it's just like any other disease. It does not care. It doesn't care your age. It doesn't care your color. It does not care your nationality. It does not discriminate, just like cancer does not discriminate. Any other, major health issues. Diabetes don't discriminate. High blood pressure does not discriminate. So it does not matter. But I'm gonna hold that question because that's another George question as well. But Minister Blackwell, I wanted you to go ahead and give us a little bit of your story because we see you all the time advocating. We know Jared, we know the Brown brothers, we know Steve. They are all a big advocates. But I want you today to go ahead and advocate for yourself on how having a transplant will greatly enrich your life with your beautiful family and your grandbabies. Just touch on that so everybody can know. Oh, wait a minute. I'm sorry.
Can you hear me?
I'm sorry. Yes, go ahead.
Okay, I guess my kidney situation kind of started back in 1999 when I had started having a sharp pain in my left side. And, me being a former NFL player, I knew my body pretty well. And I told my doctor something's wrong. I had like someone had a knife sticking me in my left side. And so the particular doctor at that particular time, show you how God works, he was getting a divorce with a lady on a jury trial, and I happened to be one of the jurors. and this is like, wait a minute. So I'm sitting here in this trial, and he's getting a divorce, and I'm one of the jurors. To make a long story short, they did get divorced, and I was on the jury telling all, make sure this guy keeps working and he takes care of his children and whatever. So after the trial was over with, he says, look, if you ever need a doctor, please call me. I'm the doctor at Piedmont Hospital if you need me. So 4 years later, guess who found this this little bitty, I guess like the size of a BB on my left side? It was this particular same doctor. And of course, I cried like a baby then because I knew the Lord was doing something supernatural and putting us together. And he was able to find that quickly. And he said the bad thing is you got kidney cancer. We're gonna have to remove your left kidney. He said, but I wish it was in a place where we could use half where you could have the other kidney. He said, you can live with that one kidney. So they removed the left kidney in 99. And I'm thinking I'm gonna be great. Like you said, I'm a former NFL player. I had 3 years experience. I'm thinking the thing is great. I done left, and I'm in corporate America, and I got this big contract I just got for Gate Gourmet Food Service. I convinced them they're an airline catering company, and they've been putting food on airlines. And I done told them that we need to do Amtrak, we need to do trains, and God is using me, and I'm a volunteer pastor. I'm pastoring people. Things are going well. And I got kidney cancer, and I'm thinking, I just got this company a $62 million food service contract, and I can't do it. And my wife said, you can have 162 million if you're dead. You need to go and get this taken care of. Because in my mind, I was thinking, I'm not telling them about this. I can just kind of get through it. That's how the enemy had trapped me. But to make a long story short, I did have the surgery, and the doctors did tell me, they said, Willie, now about 20 years from now, you're going to probably, your other kidney is going to be depreciating. So you need to take care of yourself. You need to start eating well. You need to start doing exercise. And I'm a former player, so I knew all about that. So I quit eating red meat. I cut it out. I quit eating pork. I quit eating chili dogs and all that. I quit that. So about 20 some years, I didn't eat anything. So now, all of a sudden, my other kidney is at 17%, and I'm with Dr. Katz here at Piedmont Hospital, and he said, "Well, Willie, you're looking good." He said, "You should be on dialysis, but your numbers are good. I'm exercising, I'm working out. I went down to I'm on a list at Jacksonville, and I just can't say enough about the Mayo Clinic. I told the people in Piedmont, I said, look, these folks in Jacksonville got it going on. I mean, they looked at me, they evaluated me, they looked at everything I had, and I was just amazed with the facility, the hospital, and everything is just great. And I'm on the list at Jacksonville and Mayo. But I knew, 700 Club wants to do a story because they can't figure out, I'm supposed to be on dialysis. I'm supposed to be based on it, but I'm not. I'm still working. Yes, I do get tired after 8, 9, 10 hours. I contribute to my faith. I contribute to, just eating right, staying positive, because I was the type of person, I helped a lot of people. You probably seen some of my posts where I did a nationwide literacy program because our company wouldn't hire Spanish people. They wouldn't hire Asian people. They wouldn't hire people to read. So I created a program called Dobbs Caters to Learning. If you Google it, you'll see CNN where they do a nationwide program. And I brought classes on site for our employees nationwide to learn how to read and write. And so many of the people that have pulled those tapes and said, man, you've done a lot of stuff to help people. We got to help you. And they're really trying to help me to get a kidney. But, you first start with your family. And it's like you guys said before, sister got high blood pressure, other sister got diabetics, brother's overweight, wife is not doing it because she's got medical problems. And then you go to the circle of friends. And I had a lady just last week. She said, Willie, I'm trying to help you. I'm trying to help you. They're not contacting me back. And then I called the people down at the hospital, and they said, Willie, she's a good match, but the kidneys won't work. And I had to explain to her. I said, look, you're gonna be indebted in my heart forever for trying to help me, but I do not want anything to happen to you. That is the worst fear that I could ever have. And they're telling me that you're a good match, but there's some other things going on with you that's not going to work. So I just stay positive. God has showed me in so many ways that He is faithful and what He's done for me. And I'm trying to promote this because this is not, once I get my kidney, it's just not going to be, I'm going to be like you, son. I won't be out promoting helping other people. Yeah. I mean, this is a lifelong journey. This is just not one time you get the kidney and then I'm gone. I'm here forever until I do leave here. But I'm just thankful that I've been using the power of social media because even as a pastor and helping people, and my doctor even told me this. He said, Willie, you got a little fear because you don't want to ask for help. He said, that's your problem. I said, well, what do you mean? She said, you don't want to ask for help. He said, if you don't ask for help and you get a kidney, you're going to be gone. That is for sure. And you got to learn how to get on there, be positive, tell people your story, market yourself, and let people know that you exist in this world. And sure, show people what you've done in the past and get out there and get you a kidney.
Right.
And that's what I'm doing.
And I thank you, Pastor Blackwell, for really sharing your story so that, other people know if they are looking, to be able to help someone, such as yourself. I was dubbed, the force behind the voice of the transplant community, and Emmett in California, who's a lupus and kidney recipient. And so that's another disease that does not care. Now, what's rare is lupus appearing in a man. That's really rare. And he started that in the early 1990s. He was diagnosed with lupus, and he's trying to figure out, now, how do I have a female disease? So again, going back to that question, will my organs work in a non-Black person? Okay. Now I know I've given an answer, and if people could find out, like if Malcolm knew his donor, if my friend Tony knew his, if Miss Thelma, and if anyone on here, Miss Gretchen, if they got to know that donor is, and I'm telling you, a lot of times it's Caucasian people that become living donors, or they're just willing to give their their organs to somebody. It's 9 times out of 10. Most of the times it's always Caucasian, and Black people are just twiddling their thumbs like, And even in my situation where my late husband, there was nothing that really could be done just because of, what had affected his body. And so I know a lot of people are like wanting their loved one to come back and leaving them, on the life support for years and years. And I knew that man, and that was something he would not have wanted. Like, don't leave me on no machine, because I'm not there. I'm just a shell body. But that's someone else's, decision. But I could never have just left him on a machine for all of that time. I definitely couldn't. But Dr. Patel, how can we help people really understand this? That kidney disease, congestive heart failure, none of those diseases discriminate.
You bring up a very good point. I mean, you are right on. These diseases don't discriminate, and the donors don't discriminate in terms of where they go. And I think it's really important to understand that race is definitely not a factor in organ donation at all. And you're right in the sense that if you're to look at who constitutes most of the organ donors, as right now in the United States, they tend to be Caucasian more so than anything else. So your mission to educate the community is very key, because you can imagine, even if we improve our donor pool by about 20-30%, we could really save lives. It's a domino effect. You start transplanting the really sick patients, and then it slowly gets to where you can transplant less sick patients. And so education is definitely the key to making sure everybody understands that, because God has made us all equal, and race is definitely not. While race is a genetic thing, it has nothing to do with transplantation at all.
Right. So I'm glad we got that question, out of the way, because I know the Brisbys, Demetrius, and Tyrone. Tyrone received his heart from a 14-year-old Caucasian boy. And they just so happened to be like, the same size, the height, the weight, like they were equivalent. I know Malcolm and Jackie, again, they are definitely advocating. He has, heart for Malcolm. They have t-shirts. Like, they have gone really, really strong. They are some strong advocates. Wherever they go, whatever city they're in, they're advocates. And then they look at Black people like, what are you doing? I'm not ever giving anybody my organ until this knocks at your door. And transplants isn't a conversation that you have at the dinner table. It is not. And so not to have that conversation, like Gretchen, at least, and Gretchen, I'm gonna bring you back on, at least her family has had the conversation pertaining to what is happening in their family. And so now they can start preparing, because it's not that you don't know. So when you know better, you do better. And that is always ever so important, to me. And I'm just grateful for you all, being on here. I really wasn't trying to take up a lot of time, but Dr. Patel, I got some more questions. And one of the questions just came from my friend. Like, at what percentage of functionality do you begin to consider dialysis? Well, but you congestive heart failure, so I don't know if you can answer that.
I am definitely good at the heart, but not an expert on the kidney. But usually, if I were to guess, and I'm not the expert, you're talking about a 20-30% functionality is when you start thinking about dialysis. But as Reverend Blackwell has kind of mentioned, you can still be at 20-30%, and for some people, it's enough to keep them going. So, one of the things that nephrologists really do is they do not want to start dialysis too early, because, as you know, it can be complicated and it increases the risk for complications. And so, that is also our hope. Honestly, from a kidney transplant standpoint, it would be so much nicer if we had enough organs where we can transplant people before they get the kidney transplant. I mean, before they get the dialysis, because I think, once you are placed on dialysis, and again, I'm not a kidney transplant doc, but the clock starts ticking in terms of potential for complications. You start developing calcium in your body, your vessels get a little bit harder, there's a risk for infection. And so, that is why we need to push this. And, we've been very fortunate with the National Kidney Donor Registry to kind of naturally find donors, but we still have a ways to go.
The ways to go, because and I love to give this information. I know over 80% of people that are waiting for the gift of life is, they're waiting on a kidney. That is just facts. Because, that kidney is the number one organ that people are waiting on. And I know my friend Derek finally got on. Technology was not much that we could do, and he's going to actually be on my show. But he is one of the oldest people. Can I tell, or you want to tell it, Derek? Can you hear me? Let me
Oh, no,
you just
you can talk.
okay.
Hello,
So
everybody.
I want you to give a little bit about what you're waiting on.
Huh?
Give a little bit of your story.
Well, I guess my story really started when I was about 6 years old. Me and my brothers, we was playing, and I happened to fall, and my mom noticed a knot on my stomach, and they took me to the hospital. Come to find out, I had Wilms tumor. And basically, the doctors told my mother and father, if we do the surgery and remove the tumor, he might live. If we don't do it, he has about 2 weeks to live. From what I've been told now, I just turned 49 Wednesday, and the Wilms Tumor Foundation said I'm the oldest living person that's ever had a Wilms tumor, because it's very rare with Wilms tumor survival rate, from what I understand. And they removed my right kidney, and I lived till I was 46, and my other kidney started failing. So now, actually, I just finished up. I do dialysis at home, and I was just wrapping up. That's why I'm a little late and everything. And I'm over at the Mayo Clinic getting everything set up. And also, they want me to register in Savannah. It's been a real uphill battle, because also my mom, she was on dialysis. She just passed away 2 weeks ago. And we used to always compare our treatments, but I've been doing home dialysis now for a year.
Right.
I love it because I can travel, whenever COVID get done. But it's really been an uphill battle with me, from the diabetes, and then also from when, for some strange reason, when they were doing the chemo when I was a kid, it weakened my spine, and it created I have scoliosis. And so I had to wear a brace growing up. I'm just happy that I have pain, but it's not as bad as I see a lot of people. It's a blessing.
Yeah.
And
now don't give. Wait, Derek. Don't give too much, because I gotta be something for the show. Don't.
Oh.
Don't. We want them to come back. We gonna just hook them in. So on Thursday, you will see Derek on my show talking about this, and and he's also waiting for the gift of life, and he started at Mayo here in Jacksonville as well. So Dr. Patel, Mayo is just everywhere. So we just want to make sure that people know where to go. And I had some other comments that popped up. Actually, Keisha that's my best friend. We've been friends forever now, over 20 years now, and our kids grew up together. But her son is facing, again, a kidney situation, as well. So, we're praying for him, as well. So this uniquely touches me in every way. So anytime I meet somebody, and I'm just amazed at how many people I come in contact with that has, some type of need for a transplant. Miss Erica, you may have already answered this. Is this pandemic affecting organ donation? Has there been a decline in donation or an increase due to the pandemic? Erica, that is a great question. Dr. Patel?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. I think we're in a different state now than we were
Last year?
March or April last year. So back then, there wasn't necessarily a decline in organ donation, but there was a hesitancy as to what was safe to transplant in our patients. Especially, remember back then, it was very hard to get rapid testing for COVID. And so, the last thing we would want to do is take a organ from a COVID donor, put it in somebody, and then we suddenly immunosuppress them, meaning we get rid of their immune system, and COVID just flourishes. And so there was about a 2 to 3 month time where things were a little bit slowed down nationally. But actually, if you look at the total numbers over the year, we're about the same as we were last year, and we didn't hit record nationally, but we were close to it. And so I think, which is great, and I think that's a testament to the science, to the ability to test out there, and again, to be very innovative in the way we do stuff. In fact, at Mayo, we had actually a record-breaking year, not only for heart transplant, but also for transplants in general. So COVID did challenge us, but I think we're doing okay. And the other thing is I can tell you there are all these kind of chat rooms where there are docs every week asking questions about what do we do next? What do we do next? What should we do here? When can we get like the biggest thing, a month ago is when can we get vaccines to our transplanted patients? And so a lot of it is unknown territory, but we're feeding off each other's expertise to give the best to our patients. And I think the other thing I should also mention is COVID has also changed some of the reasons why we transplant. So in the United States, I don't know if you've noticed, but there's been an uptick in lung transplant needs because of COVID. And there are young people who are out on life support called ECMO who need organs. And so just another new disease process that has kind of added to the pool of people needing organs. So another reason why we need you guys to do what you're doing and spread the word and really kind of support the importance of organ donation and dispel all these myths.
Yes, because you see them, everyone here either has had a transplant or they're waiting. So it is greatly affecting, the African American community. And I just want to make sure, I know Steve had asked a question. I know because we have, some here, what's the potential of post-transplant complications? Now, I'm not sure if he's saying like after you get it or if you are a donor. I'm not sure.
Well, I can tell you a little bit about both. So post-transplant complications depends on the organ. So again, I'm a heart transplant doc, so I can tell you about heart transplant. But in general, in the United States, you can say that around 7 to 8% of people don't survive their first year after transplant, and that's because of some sort of surgical complication. Whether you had to it's important to understand that sometimes we fly hundreds of miles to get these hearts. We take a heart, we put it in a box, we put it on ice in a way, and we bring it over. There's a risk that that heart gets injured, on the way, despite our best intentions. Sometimes, as you guys, a couple of our colleagues here have had transplants with VADs, and those are the hardest transplants to do because you take somebody who's not had any pulse for a while, and then you take that pump out. There's all this scar through the whole chest area, and then you put a new heart in. There's there tends to be a lot of risk involved with that, and so in general, the risk is around 7 to 8% for heart transplant in the first year, and then thereafter, you probably carry about a 3 to 5% risk. So For heart transplant, the average survival is around 15 years. And kidney and so forth are different. And so what are kind of the complications? There's surgical complications up front. And then afterwards, there's a risk for rejection. There's a risk for kidney failure because some of the meds we use to avoid rejection actually can mess with your kidneys as well. And so there's a risk for kidney failure. There's a risk for infection as well, because when we suppress the immune system, so when we, all of our bodies have basically soldiers in our body that fight anything foreign to it. Well, we have to actually make those soldiers kind of stand down for a while we put something foreign into the recipient. And so when we actually kind of make the soldiers stand down a little bit, that opens the gates for infection to come in. And so that's also another infection. And then on the living donor side, the risks are pretty low, actually. So if you were a living donor and you were going to give a kidney, there may be a 1 or 2% at most risk for a complication from organ donation, from my understanding. Again, I'm not a kidney doctor.
And then, and I'm going to try to keep this short. I don't want to hold everybody because we're already over an hour. And again, Steve asked this questions, do donors get free follow-up care if complication happens? And then Marshall asked, is the vaccine safe to give to transplant recipients? And before you answer that, I just want to, I see everybody here, and I'm going to add Gretchen. I'm going to add Miss Gretchen back and ask you all, Pastor, Tony, Miss Thelma, Malcolm, Derek, and Gretchen, have you all received the vaccine? Have you all taken the vaccine shot? Miss Elizabeth?
No,
I have not taken
actually,
the vaccine.
asked me.
Okay, wait a minute. Gretchen, you said yes? Gretchen, yes, you've had the vaccine?
No, I have not taken the vaccine.
Okay. And Derek?
I have not had vaccine.
Okay. I heard
I
you.
haven't been taking it yet, but Mayo Clinic is setting it up, I think, for this week. I think that's what I'll get my shot.
Okay. And Malcolm?
I haven't, no, I have not yet.
Do you plan to, or is it a question?
I think when I see the doctor in March 23rd, I think he'll talk about it then.
Okay. Do you
I don't know
have
what the plan is. The last time I talked to him, he told me there wasn't none approved. That was back in January. But I don't know what it is now. I don't know. Okay. I see lots of on the news. I see a lot of people around me got them, but I haven't.
Okay, so Mr. Blackwell, you said yes, and Tony?
No, I have not.
No.
Take the second.
You're on your second one. Dr. Patel? Okay.
Yeah.
Dr. Patel, have you had the vaccine? I haven't, so I'm going to ask. Okay.
Yes, I've had the vaccine, and so one of the big questions is after transplant, when can you safely get the vaccine? And there's no data on it. We've looked at it, and as of right now, we're recommending to our patients that 3-month mark to get the vaccine and afterwards. And so if you're 3 months after a transplant, what I would recommend is that you call your transplanting center and ask and not wait. And the only reason why I say that is your risk for having complications from COVID is markedly greater than your risk for having complications from the vaccine. And the complication risk for the vaccine is very, very small. We're talking about on the level of 1 to 2% or less. Also keep in mind when you're transplanted, you actually have a doubling of the risk of dying from COVID. So a transplanted patient that gets COVID has a doubling compared to the average population. So this is a reason why COVID is very important. Getting your vaccines if you're transplanted is very important. Now, for the regular population who's not transplanted, I still think it's very important to get the vaccine when you can. And the reason why, again, is the risk for the vaccine is less than the risk for COVID alone. And I know there's a lot of myths out there, a lot of concerns out there, and so forth. But I strongly believe that we need to dispel those myths because the faster all of us get vaccinated, the quicker this goes down, the less people will have complications from this disease process. I've had COVID myself, and it is definitely, and I'm, I don't have medical issues, but it took me months to fully recover from an exercise standpoint. And so, you know, I think it's one of these disease processes that we need to get under control because there's a lot of unpredictability with it. So.
Okay. And Miss Erica asked it. Erica she's like George. She's banging out these questions. Can you clarify, I guess, when you said something about no data?
We have minimal data in the transplant patients with the vaccine. So we have very good data with what COVID does from an outcome standpoint. We have very good data what the vaccine does from a side effect standpoint. So if you look at that, it's almost, in my opinion, a no-brainer that if you've never had an allergy to any vaccine, that you should get the vaccine, period. What we don't have data on is when is the right time after transplant to vaccinate somebody. And the reason why is that when somebody's first transplanted, we give them a lot of that immunosuppressive medications. So the immune system is not able to mount a response. So if you give a vaccine, the vaccine may not work. And so that is why we don't give the vaccine early on. We wait about 2 to 3 months and then we give it, because then the vaccine will work. Meaning, there's no danger or risk in giving somebody a vaccine 3 weeks after transplant, but it may not work.
Okay. Well, again, I want to just kind of bring everybody back on real quick. And I want to personally, again, thank you all for this very first virtual town hall meeting on this Valentine's Day and National Donor Day. I knew I had to do something, and when God placed it on my heart to do, I never tell God no, because I don't want him to tell me no. You know, no time soon. So again, Tony.
I'd like to say something real quick. One thing unfortunately gets left out a lot is I mentioned about the caregivers. They really are the ones, and we all have them. We all have been them. But I believe support is really the key. I know it was for me. My family, my support, and even the hospital workers. They do an incredible job, and they never get enough recognition. I see Mr. Malcolm there, who has definitely blessed to have a wife to come back to go through a lot, because it's a lot. When I went through heart issues, it made me feel less than a man. I'm gonna be straight up honest, and that's what a lot of men go through. We don't want no one taking care of us because it's not something you are used to. So I would just like to say thank you to all the caregivers out there, because without the support, I would not be here. I've going on 6 years with my heart. I started volunteering with Link immediately to be able to give back. I would say that's another thing that's kept me going. It's just the caring and the people knowing behind me to want to see me survive, because we're all warriors and we can't give up. And the key thing is that it's not me, it's someone else that has gotten me this far.
Right. So again, thank you for that. Thank you so much for that, Tony, because yes, oftentimes people forget about us as the caregivers. Like it literally was a lot. It was a lot. And I developed a twitch in my eye, the nerves in my eye, because I was so stressed. And then once my husband passed away, that went away. And I definitely, that's one of my things to do for 2020. And Malcolm always touches on it as well. In our Pastor Blackwell, the mental stability or the mind of someone, of the men especially, because women, we kind of, we're kind of grin and bear it, but for the man, that's a sensitive subject. So again, I'll be calling on y'all again, because just being able to know that if a man cannot be a man, that is everything for them. I think I did my best to make sure that, that man, just, even though he was in the hospital room, I let him be the man. And, women gotta understand how very important that is, to just love them and love them where they are. And, once they come through that, then that rainbow will come again. But, everything you go through, that storm, while you're going through that storm, just when you look back and say how we made it through here, then it was all God. So you all are just You all are true warriors. I take my hat off to you all. You know, Miss Thelma keeps that sunny disposition. She just keeps that smile. Here in Jacksonville, and I was able to meet her. I'll be coming to Atlanta. I just need for COVID to be over. Dr. Patel, how long is COVID going to be? We gotta get rid of it. I do. It's been a year. It has been a year. And again, I want to thank everybody for, you know, I know it was a few. Oh, thank you, Sandria. Thank you. And God bless you. And she has to be on my show too. So I just want to say again, thank you all again. You know, send it to your family. Let them see the things that you've endured and what you're doing. Gretchen, thank you so much. And we just pray that you receive what you receive your kidney. And Miss Thelma, you know, I definitely pray for you, Mr. Willie, because this is a difficult journey. But look at the smiles on your face. You don't look like what you've been through or what you're going through. And I pray for God for you to, you know, still do that. And I do want to thank my dear friend George, who had all these questions for us. And then hopefully now he can go become an organ. Right? Get your family and friends to register to become a voice. So thank you all again so much, Dr. Patel. I love you from the bottom. I love all of you. But yeah, I don't think you all understand how to have a position such as this. And I know people don't like their, you know, the doctors get a bad up. But when I tell you, Dr. Patel is a loving and caring man. Yeah. I mean, I can't cry. So thank you all again for you know, for being here, and you know, we'll do it again. I'm coming back in April because that is, you know, another great time in organ donation and just watch. I'm coming back for everybody. So you're welcome. You're welcome. You're welcome. So thank you all so much. I'll put you all backstage and I'm going out the show. So y'all just stay right there. Don't leave me yet. Yeah, Dr. Patel is amazing. Did someone else have something else to say? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you for doing such a great job. Keep spreading the word. You know, I know what it takes. It takes a lot, you know, to put on something like this, you know, and you know, God will continue to bless you. And thank you so much for including us, and thanks for
Transplant Talk.
Yes, and donor awareness.
Transplant Talk. Yes.
We definitely.
Thank you so
nice
much.
meeting all you all, and we're praying for you guys too. Just waiting. You're gonna get it. Keep fighting. Keep fighting.
Keep fighting.
Transplant Talk. Yes.
Transplant Talk with my friend Derek Bryant. So I appreciate y'all. I'm just close out the show. Everybody just wave bye. Just wave bye to everybody. Bye. God bless you all. Thank you again. I love you. Good night. Good night. You too. Happy Valentine's Day again.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Same to you.
Bye. Thank you, Dr. Patel.
Dr. Patel.
Thank you.